But I see you need to learn how to applaud. In the farm workers, when I was working in the farm, we used to applaud like that. And Luis Valdez, the guy who started the Teatro Campesino, the farm worker theater, came to us one time and says, you know, you're supposed to be this movement about unity and momentum and all this stuff, but you applaud chaotically. Now, you need to applaud in a way that represents what your movement is about. And I went like this. Here, come in front of me. Now, for many years in California, anytime you heard that, people said, oh, it's the aplauso campesino. It's a farm worker applause because of the unity and momentum. But we were doing a Latino Camp Obama in New Mexico during the campaign. And a young woman had been organizing the Filipino community said, wait, we've added something new to that. And it goes like this. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Ganz, for your inspiring talk.
That's a hard education.
Yeah. But we're going to take 10 minutes of questions for Professor Ganz. I'm going to bring a microphone to you if you have a question. Try and indicate to me if you have a question. We're going to limit this to 10 minutes so everyone can enjoy their dinner. But let me know by a show of a hand if you have a question for Professor Ganz.
New Mexico.
Hi.
Thank you for that story.
Why don't you stand up so I can see you?
My question about organizing right now is that things are different now than they were 100 years ago when physicians organized in the early 20th century to bring about healthcare reform. Physicians organized to exclude other physicians who worked for corporations, such as the Chicago Medical Association, excluding the physician who worked for Sears Roebuck because he was selling his labor at himself. Physicians organized when they founded the AMA Council on Pharmaceuticals and took a stand against drug makers of that time, which was product salesmen, and said, if you advertise to the lay public, we will not prescribe your medications. So physicians organized early in the 20th century. Things are different now because the big corporations have more power. A lot of physicians work for corporations. The doctor-patient relationship has been severed, and traditionally doctors had power in that relationship, in that anybody who wanted patients needed to first go to doctors. So in light of all this, how do you see this grassroots organizing from physicians working now?
Well, boy. Well, let me ask you, how do you see it? Because why are you here? I mean, what are you hoping for from being here?
As you said, change always comes from grassroots. In 1776, this nation was founded under the cry of all men are created equal. And then we had to have a civil rights movement in the mid-60s, 200 years later, to begin the completion of that. So I'm just mystified what we're going to do next. I do have a solution, but it's not.
No, and you know, I have a little cop-out, which, you know, I said leadership's about asking questions, not answering them, but no, but seriously, I think, see, to me, it goes back to what I said at the beginning, that there's a real dilemma here in that you're called to healing, and people in medical practice are called to healing. The way the system is structured, it makes it really hard. Or am I wrong? The incentives, the mechanisms, the whole thing. I want to care for this human being as a human being. I want to heal this human being. But wait a second, there's this, there's that, there's the other. But you're right at the nexus of where it all happens. The people in the bus boycott, they had their feet. But look what your resources are. You are actually at the point of production where this stuff happens. Now that gives you an enormous amount of leverage, an enormous amount of expertise, an enormous amount of legitimacy. And I think that the challenge is to mobilize those resources. You know, when anybody's in one, alone in some big system, you feel powerless. That's why something like this is so incredibly important. And you know, fear to act isn't limited to farm workers. I was shocked to find it among doctoral students related to their dependency on faculty. So, I mean, I think that to me is what Doctors for America is about, is trying to create a collective capacity among the healing profession to use that capacity to begin to heal the system. And I think you'll find ways, just like David, when you commit to actually doing it and have. I hope that's not a cut-out.
Michael Newman, a physician here in Washington. Thank you very much for a really wonderful and inspiring remarks. I think that your father, to see you now with your degrees, speaking of Moses, Hillel, Maimonides, you'd be very pleased. We're fortunate because everyone agrees that healthcare is a problem. What can we learn when we look at groups such as the Tea Party or the NRA, which seem to be particularly effective in organizing and meeting high principles? What do we learn from those groups which we encounter regularly at the Capitol and the Supreme Court?
Well, it's really interesting, because, the condition that provokes, I think, organization and movement is the challenge of uncertainty, anxiety, indeterminacy, what's coming. And there's a response that can be built on fear, which is to exclude, to build walls, and to reject. And there's a response that can be built on hope, which is to learn, include, and become creative. And I think the NRA and the Tea Party are both about the politics of fear. And let's face it, there is an enormous demographic change going on in this country. Enormous. And to me, it's really important to pay attention to that. Really important. And it's happening big time in southern states that have always been, the backbone of resistance to any progressive change in this country. So I guess I've come to think about the Tea Party as more of a death rattle than a birth cry. It's a disappearing demographic. And I think we need to have the confidence to understand the direction in which the future is moving and not be so defensive. Now, what can we learn? Well, organizing really can make a difference. I mean, Tea Party wasn't any big mass movement. They were well organized, they were well funded, certainly. But they also moved into a vacuum in which the politics of hope were silent. And they said, oh, you know what it's about? It's about all those people, starting with the president. And they captured that. And the power of negativity is very, very powerful. You got to come back with a counter to that, with a politics of hope. And it seems to me, as healers, that's something you can bring to the debate. The NRA, 1 out of every 25 of the gun club members in this country is in a leadership role. They have developed a grassroots leadership base out there in the gun clubs that enables them to mobilize. So they're not just, they're not just a brand. They're actually an organization. And I think that's something we have to learn from them. But I think we have to put what we learn about organization to the service of a politics of hope, not a politics of fear. And I think hope can trump fear, believe it or not.
Professor Ganz.
Yeah.
In 2008, when I started volunteering for Senator Obama, I knew that at the leadership of Organizing for America, the leader had to be some guy really, really smart, and now I found out that you were the leader.
No, I helped with the training. I helped in that work.
Thank you. So the enemy is learning your techniques. The enemy is adapting, and they call the so-called turf false gravity. grassroots or whatever you call it.
AstroTurf.
That's right.
AstroTurf, yeah.
And so they learned that from the tobacco industries, and they learned it from many, many other places. And so that now they know your technique. How do you fight back, and especially in the face of the United Citizens Supreme Court decision, and now how do you fight against these humongous, powerful forces that have unlimited funds?
Well, there we go, you know. I wish there were a silver bullet. I don't think there is. I mean, learning comes through action, adaptation comes through action. You know, interesting, I don't know if you followed the election in France today. Grassroots organization. Well, who I think won, didn't he? I mean, it's a runoff, but didn't he come in first? Yeah, his team of young organizers, they were at the Kennedy School, and they took these techniques developed in this campaign, applied them in France. It's the first time it's been done over there. They had like 6,000 full-time organizers in France. I mean, it's very exciting to kind of see. See, I don't think it's about a particular technique or method. I think it's much more about the mission. It's about the calling, and then it's about dedication to craft. See, to figuring out this stuff. I mean, I can tell you in the first campaign how much stuff was adapted in the course of the campaign. It wasn't all like figured out and then applied. It was much more a process of adaptation, especially between online and offline organizing, which was blended in a really powerful way in that first campaign. So I don't have an answer for you. What I do have is the conviction that there is no alternative but to be as resourceful and as courageous as we can in making the fight. There's no magic bullets here. But look at all the resources in this room. Look at the intellect in this room. Look at the moral commitment in this room. Look at the skills in this room. Boy, there's a lot here to start with. And that's sort of how I look at it.
We're going to wrap this up because Professor Ganz has a plane to catch. But thank you so much for your time tonight, your remarks, and your teaching. Enjoy your dinners. We're going to have some fun stuff coming up, including slideshows, some trivia, and some more information about the rest of the week. So thank you all for coming.